The stakes have never been higher. The competition has never been stronger. 42 drivers, 25 rounds. One will be crowned champion. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. Tune in Wednesday nights on the iRacing eSports Network to watch the cars and stars of Lionheart, the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by First Medical Equipment.
This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
Down. Last season, Karl Modhoff won literally every race, running what was arguably a perfect championship. This will be a difficult feat to top, especially when every driver is now firmly placing a target on his back. The bar has been raised, the points table has been cleared, and an entire field of cars are ready to thunder into the first corner. It's a thrilling stage that is set, and I can't wait to see it unfold as we get ready to watch the opening round of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing eSports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, Sebring's seen a lot of action this weekend, but looks like we're not quite done with it yet.
No, we're not, Joe. We've been here a lot in the past week, not only in the virtual world, but also in the real world, as both IMSA and the World Endurance Championship made their pilgrimage to Sebring International Raceway just this past weekend. It's a demanding and grueling track, so what better venue than Sebring to open up both a demanding and grueling season? It's 17 turns spanning 6 kilometers, and to be honest, when you first take a look at the track here in South Central Florida, there might not be much to see. Take a closer look at it though, and you see that despite the lack of elevation change, Sebring is rich in an extremely abrasive surface that runs deep in history, linked to its start as an old World War II airbase. You have to deal with both long, fast, speeding sections of tarmac, as well as daunting turns with no grip, and of course, that tricky infield technical section. To get a better look at what kind of racetrack the drivers are up against to kick off the season tonight, let's send you down to the track for the GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Sebring. Coming down the front stretch, the first corner is going to give you a really good idea of just how bumpy this track is. And this car can be a little shaky on entry into these fast corners, so expect any passing moves to be kind of hairy on both sides. Powering off this fast sweeper is important because now we approach turn 3, which is a popular place for overtakes. You can grab a lot of curb on the inside, but don't get too greedy because you can still knock the car loose on them. The racing line tends to reward a late apex here in 5 with how the curve tightens, but this is another place where it pays to be on the power early and with confidence. Big Bend is flat out, so this whole run acts as one long straight down to the hairpin. A lot of overtakes are going to happen with the heavy braking into this sharp right-hander, but it's also very easy to overcook your entry. Watch out for how the track weaves back and forth on the exit, and then try your best to straighten out 8 and 9. There's no lifting, it's all about just minimizing your steering inputs. But hold to the left because coming up is the braking for Cunningham. This is another place where you can expect a lot of passes, but it's also another place where the curb to the inside is a bit tall and can be nasty depending on how hard you hit it. Same with the run here through Collier. Don't get greedy on those curbs because the Armco is right there to collect you. The braking for Tower requires you to flirt with the edge of the track, and sometimes you'll see cars spin off when they dip a wheel into the dirt. A lot of dust and gunk is going to get dragged onto the track when drivers go wide in the exit as well. Bishop is flat out, so just try to round out these 2 apexes and then hold the car off to the left for the best line into Jean Debienne. It's important to keep on the racing line through here so that you can set up wide for Le Mans. This is perhaps the most critical corner on the track because it dumps you onto the Ullman Straight, which is the longest acceleration zone of the circuit. Even if you get a good exit, your competitors might be able to grab onto your slipstream and get a run towards sunset. But I wouldn't recommend trying to go through here too wide. It's incredibly bumpy, and the curved braking makes the car very unsteady. Square off this exit so that you can really put the power down. Be careful not to drift into the grass on the left, and then, as you cross the line, you've now finished a lap around Sebring.
Going to be a bumpy ride during today's race, but you can't discount the skill of these drivers in dealing with those bumps. As always, though, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. The Simulation Motorsports Association is a sim racing platform created by experienced racers. Established in 2015 and supported by the International Sim Racing Federation, the association is bringing together organizations and communities to further promote sim racing globally. Concentrating on all sims worldwide, they offer a focused opportunity for sim racers to compete with each other. They also provide consultancy services to this growing esports world. SimMSA offers solution for racing simulator requirements and custom-built simulator parts, as well as complete customization and upgrading of existing simulators. You can find them at SimMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Frazier Deeter. Frazier Deeter is a nationally recognized PCAOB, registered CPA, and advisory firm headquartered in Atlanta with thousands of clients globally. It provides a wide range of services, including tax, audit, advisory, internal controls, and transaction support to achieve each client's unique financial goals. With offices in Alpharetta, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Nashville, and Tampa, Frazier Deeter has consistently been named a best of the best CPA firm by Inside Public Accounting and is ranked among the top 60 largest CPA firms in the United States. You can find them at FrazierDeeter.com. No ampersand in there for the website. Make sure I don't accidentally send you the wrong place. But to send us to the right place here in our broadcast, let's hop over to Nick. What were the points like at the end of last season?
Well, the accounting firm up front at the end of the standings last season, it quickly became a runaway. For Carl Modoff, you mentioned, he won every single race. He has 259 points at the end of the season. Our reigning champion, he held off Christian Eisler, Jorge Flores, Jean-Marc Tremblay, and Simon Avital behind them. Very close battling behind them though, so you can see that it was very good racing all throughout the field. We also had the Teams Championship after that, with a couple of still here, see some great racing. Speedworks Racing Team, SRT, at the top, Tremblay and Flores winning the championship last year, followed by SDS Racing Team, Recmotech, Ether SimSport, Team Bushfink Racing, and the Andes Team Puma. See a couple of those gaps very close, even down to 2 points difference. So every single point, every single position really ends up mattering here in the Precision Racing League.
And it's going to be pretty similar viewing for anybody who did watch last season as we take a look at the race details here today. We are at round 1 of 10, and they do get one drop week. Now, the big difference is they have 4 cars this season. It's the Porsche 911, the Ferrari 488, the Ford GT, and now the BMW M8. Unfortunately, we have not spotted any Fords here today quite yet. That may have changed since we last looked into that, and unfortunately we're still not spying any having hit the track. Hopefully we'll get some throughout the season. Race distance is the same as most of the regular sprint races, 45 minutes long, which means you can expect 1 pit stop due to the fuel cells being restricted compared to what the real cars can run. They have an incident cap of 24. Hopefully we don't have anybody running afoul of that today, and they have no spare car to save them if you do get any damage over these bumps and curbs and walls here at Sebring. And just like last season, of course, this race is brought to you on the iRacing eSports Network. We encourage everybody to consider subscribing. All you got to do that is click the big red button that says subscribe on their YouTube page. You can find not only the Precision Racing League, but the World Championship Series, the official iRacing World Championship Series, all here on IESN. Taking a look at how qualifying is going, it's good news for Modoff fans, bad news for the impartial viewer. The number 48 is back again, and he's got the top spot after his 2 laps that he's put in. Only one of them have counted. A 55.3 is currently the fastest marker that everybody's got to compete with. He's going to come across the line right now, Nick, and he'll set another dummy lap. He must have had an off somewhere. Corey Ott seems to be giving him chase.
Yeah, it's a decently sized gap from Modoff to Ott from first to second. 0.3 of a second roughly, but after that, second, third, fourth, and fifth, they are down to 6/100ths of a second. All 4 of those cars grouped together. Ott, Montini, Espinoza, and Eisler right now rounding out the top 5. So the competition, at least behind Modoff, is very, very microscopically close right now.
That'll make it fascinating. Hopefully it won't allow Modoff to streak away with all those drivers battling each other. This is Montini we're on board with. There's usually 2 of them. Federico is who we're riding with, who's currently in 3rd. As he abandons his next lap, probably getting his fuel reset. Eisler, who has fought for the championship in the past, but has never quite won one here in PRL, is 727, sitting in 6th. It's a clean slate, as we mentioned. We'll see if he'll be able to regroup and maybe take it to Eisler, but this lap not going to count for him, unfortunately, so he'll have to sit on that 55.6. Now, we watched last season, Nick. Ott showed up, but only in the first few races, and then he kind of disappeared. I think he had real-world obligations. I kind of wonder if he'll be able to take it to Modoff again, because last season he was really one of the few drivers that that really seemed to challenge him on pace, it seems.
He definitely was, and I think everyone last year got a real good look at, exactly how Karl Modhoff drives these tracks, his skill level. They knew they know going into this year what they're up against. That study time might be paying off here. It's a long season, so it's going to be a really tough task for Modhoff to win all 10 races again. But I wouldn't put it past him based off of the speed we saw last year either.
And it is a longer season. Last season, the winter one, they decided, as Karl actually ups his fastest time, you can see on screen a 54.7, which puts it a whopping 0.6 out of our new second place driver, Jorge Flores. Dear goodness, this is not a good sign for the rest of the drivers at all. But yes, a shorter season last season, only 8 races, 10 this season. So it's going to be, as you mentioned, tougher for him to sweep the field yet again. Valenzuela coming around in 18th, number 33. Looks like he will complete this lap as we're starting to run out of time. We've got a minute and a half left to go, Nick. So with how long this lap is, these drivers really got to hustle to do something here with Modhoff.
You mentioned it's a bigger season. It's also a bigger field, 40 cars. I think that's bigger than most of the races were last year, and that number might change a little bit throughout the season. But 40 cars here at Sebring to kick off the opener. That action in the mid-pack and the rear is going to be just as exciting up front, I think.
Sean Duhamel is still going to sit in 18th, crossing the line, not able to improve in his 56.5. Just a minute left, so most drivers probably starting that final lap for themselves that they'll be able to count. Kenny Rodriguez from New Jersey coming up to Sunset Bend. This always one of those places where viewers want to keep their eyes on, Nick. This last 180-degree turn.
Oh, it definitely is. The car has so little grip through there because it's so flat, and those really large concrete blocks really that seem to make up the track. A very abrasive surface here. The car really kind of goes skipping through there over the rough pavement. It's really hard to get your car controlled, especially when you're side by side with someone. Just so little grip out there, and you really have to carry speed too onto the front stretch to keep your momentum going.
Clock ticks down as Peterson comes across to start one more lap, but everybody else has now finished. The first one to cross the line will be Cristobal Valenzuela, number 33, still sitting in P16. His last lap, a 56.2. He comes down the Ullman Straight. Let's see what he's got underneath him. Up towards Sunset Bend, around the corner, trying to keep it planted, power down off of it. Is this going to be enough? It'll be awful close as it gets up to that 56, and he does improve. That moves him up to 11th. Nicely done. Next going to be Federico Montini sitting in third. This is an important one to watch. He could maybe try and dispose of Flores or Modhoff as he crosses a 55.3. That's not good enough for pole, but it is good enough for the front row for the Hispano-American driver. Espinosa crosses the line and improves up to third. Whoa, where did Espinosa come from? Andre, nicely done. Zube, the next one across the line. Currently sitting in 17th, and he's going to stay in 17th despite improving about a 10th. This is Daniel Rooney. Must be relatively early in the morning where he is over in Australia, but the number 77 has shown up to try and see if he can compete with what is mostly North and South American drivers. And he does improve actually from 27th to 18th. Actually, that's a huge jump. This is Steve Peterson, the last person to try and improve, sitting in P16, and he does not improve his time, unfortunately, so he'll stay in P16. That is going to finish up our grid here today in round one of the PRL GTE series. So let's go through our starting order. Karl Modhoff once again on the pole, picking up exactly where he left off, and by half a second. over Federico Montini. He got a few podiums last time, but no wins, of course. He will start second today. Andre Espinoza, I believe a new face this season. He'll start third with Jorge Flores starting fourth. Corey Ott will be P5 with Christian Eisler starting in sixth. Jean-Marc Tremblay starts in seventh, then eighth will be Fernando Borda. Pete Mabroten will start in ninth, and Ben Perez returns once again. He'll be in 10th.
Row 6 behind them, going to be a pair of Hispano-America drivers, Sebastian Maciera and Cristobal Valenzuela making up that row, followed by row 7, Justin Ream and Sean Macbeth. Corey A. Clark in the 24 will round out the top 15. Leif Peterson, we saw him there in qualifying at the end. He's going to be 16th, 17th to Tyler DeZube. Dan Rooney with the big jump up to 18th, followed by Sean Dumel and Dan Revito rounding out your top 20.
Jerome Breton starts 21st with Joshua Daniels in 22nd. Then the next row has Kenny Rodriguez on the inside in 23rd. James LeBlanc starts 24th. That's actually pretty good qualifying for the 007. Rodrigo Munoz will be 25th with Brett Thurman in 26th. Stephen Bench starts 27th with Maxi Sorella in 28th, and then it's Manuel Paredes in 29th. Top 30 rounded out by Danny Duchesne.
Last quarter of the field going to be David Slee and Joey Trungale in row number 16. Row 17 to Mike Cray and Hugo Galaz. Mike Richer will round out the top 35. Karsten Quint, Takeshi Kita, and Gary Schilling are the last 3 drivers to put up a qualifying time. Kyle Strikers and Luis Morga will be the 2 cars to opt out of a qualifying time. They'll be starting in row number 20.
Well, it is a long race, 45 minutes, so there is still plenty that could happen. And we should note, as much as we've been playing off that Modoff won every race, he was not invulnerable. He made multiple mistakes. Either he was able to rebound or he sometimes got a little bit lucky with his competitors making their own mistakes after his and handing him the lead back. This being one of those tracks where he got caught out and had to fight his way back forward, and his rival made his own mistake and had to try and come back at him. That was at Sebring. It was, I believe, I want to say that was Flores, actually. Jorge Flores that he was fighting with. Yeah, Jorge Flores, he outbraked himself last season and wound up handing the spot right back to Carl Modoff, unfortunately. With Flores starting P4, he could yet challenge him again. He certainly had good pace to keep him honest last season. So you can see the Porsche pace car leading away with this big, big field behind them. And I said it was a long lap, Nick, but with 40 cars on track, do you think that lap traffic could play an issue as well? Could that maybe be the thing that trips up the number 48?
I definitely think it's going to be an issue for the field. Will it be the thing to trip up the number 48? I don't know about that. It's going to take something pretty significant. We talked about you just recently talked about Jorge Flores, giving this win away last season to Carl Modoff with about 6 or 7 minutes left in that race. I think Flores in the 929, if he can get through all this traffic with the rest of the field, he might be one to watch for and one of the dark horses. And I say dark horses meaning anyone but Carl Modoff, but there's definitely blood in the water for Flores. I think him starting outside row 2, that might be one to watch for.
This is also going to become a relatively dark race, it looks like. It's currently 7 p.m. virtual standard time, it looks like. So you can see the lights are already on the cars, and the sun is going down. With it being a 45-minute race, it won't be pitch black out there. But this track not known for its robust lighting.
No, if we went past 45 minutes, it would get pretty dark out here. And that would throw an all-new challenge at the drivers, but they're going to have their hands full enough, I think.
Working their way up towards Cunningham now, this being one of the places where you tend to see a few passes throughout the race. And then into the very tricky and tight Collier, you can see the barriers get much closer on either side. And one thing we haven't seen either is how this mix of cars plays out. Last season, it was very, very well balanced, I have to say, between the Porsche, the 4GT, and the Ferrari. This year, obviously, we've got 3 cars again, but we're missing the Ford, at least in this race. Do you think the dynamic is going to change a little bit with that the M8 out there, the BMW, or do you think it'll be still pretty evenly matched?
We'll have to wait and see. That might be more of a mental game that these guys play. If they can get that in their heads that the BOP might be slightly altered for these cars and the BMW might have some advantage in some parts of the track, we'll definitely have to see. I think the real test is going to be Karl Modov. He did not change cars. He's still in his Porsche. So that's going to be interesting to see if any of the BMWs can dethrone him.
Absolutely. And that Porsche, known for being strong off of the slow corners with that engine right over the rear, giving a lot of grip as it tries to get the power down. Could that come in handy in some of the slower turns around here at Sebring? We'll find out, certainly. It probably won't like the bumps, though, as it'll pogo around over some of the less smooth portions of this circuit. But the Ullman Straight for the field brings us to the start very, very soon. You can see they're letting the pace car pull away a little bit to give a tiny gap to Modov. Tends to allow the leader to streak away. Modov did not get every pole position, we should point out. That could affect the season too. Pole position today, though, gives him an excellent opportunity to continue his winning streak as the green flag comes out here for round 1 in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Immediately getting in line behind him, Federico Montini, Espinoza, Flores, Corey Ott. Oh, a little deep into the first corner, though, for Montini. He loses second place, but stops the bleeding there and holds off in third.
Montini gave Modov a lot of room at the start coming off the Ullman Straight and then just got way too deep into turn 1. That's Andres Espinoza in the BMW moving up into second, like you said, but Montini's able to hold off Flores for third.
Ben Perez with a problem in turn 3. He finds himself turned around and at the end of the field now. We'll get back to that replay in a bit as we watch them now work their way through the hairpin. Oh, and we got another incident. That's Corey Ott.
And Montini.
Ooh, Federico not having the start that he wanted, that's for sure. Ott gets it going. Montini is almost stuck there until he can get the car moving once again. Ott down to 17th due to that incident.
Yeah, that took Montini a lot of time to get turned around there. He was up next to the tire barrier. Not the start at all he wants to have for this race or the season.
Well, a fresh race, or a fresh face, a fresh challenge. Andre Espinoza has taken advantage of the others around him running into trouble to get right onto the back of Karl Modov. In fact, only 0.3 between them as they get ready to complete the lap. They also haven't shaken Jorge Flores by that much. He's about 0.8 behind Espinoza for the moment. Oh, and I saw a spinning car in the back once again. That's Valenzuela. Out of Le Mans. Looks like he found the tires, unfortunately. We'll go back to the replay of that in a moment.
Jorge Flores really wide through Sunset Bend there. That's going to cause a much bigger gap to form between him and Espinoza and Modov.
Right on board with Karl, looking back at the likes of the number 87 car. That's one of those Bimmers out there. The new machine here on iRacing, the newest car that they've released, actually. And you could see behind them the slight gap opened up. Flores now 1.1 behind the top two. No challenge from Andre into the hairpin this time, just waiting patiently behind. Got a little bit more of a battle happening behind them. Christian Eisler, Jean-Marc Tremblay, Borda, Broaden, Macbeth, and Macera all in a line together, separated by very little between each of them.
Yeah, they are single file, but not letting each other get away at all. Very close together, especially Tremblay and Borda.
Yeah, this is a battle for 5th place, a top 5 up for grabs as they break for Tower. Borda looking a little bit to the inside, but probably more just trying to get into the head of Jean-Marc Tremblay. Riding on board with Fernando now. Jean Debian up towards the ever-critical Le Mans corner. See if Tremblay can get off of it nice and smooth in that Porsche, and indeed he does. Porter's got no answer.
A lot of times the mentality early in the race like this, only on lap 2, is that you don't want to push the issue, but at the same time you know it might be your best chance to pass. So you really got to weigh your options here. That's where Fernando Borda just kind of sitting back there, even though I think he might have the speed, especially in the first couple sectors of this track, to get around Jean-Marc Tremblay. Haven't seen that move yet.
The plot thickens. Espinosa just set the fastest lap of the race behind the likes of Modoff. There was one point where I saw he was only a 10th behind the number 48. That since increased that gap almost up to half a second now, but still very much threatening our current champion. So we watch these two break once again for the hairpin. They continue to drop the likes of Flores. It is now 2 seconds back to the final podium position. Jorge just does not seem to have the pace. Let's jump back to 10th because Corey Clark is holding off number 88 of Justin Rame.
He is indeed. Right now, Rame thought might be making a look to the inside there. Behind them, there is quite a gaggle of cars, though. Peterson, DeZube, and Revito, followed by Ott, Rooney. Whole string of 5 or 6 cars back there.
And don't forget, Ott is trying to come back forward. He's managed to overtake a couple cars. He's up to 15th. And this close battle is between DeZube and Revito just ahead of him that we're watching. I'm sure he's just licking his chops, hoping that they do start to go side by side, giving him a chance to go onto the attack, but I don't think he's going to need it. Look at how good he gets off of Le Mans. I think we might see him have a go up into Sunset Bend.
I think we might. Revito's taking a peek to the inside right now on DeZube.
That was awful close. Almost made contact with Revito. Not sure that he actually came together, but he nearly did. He's going to get off the corner slightly better, maybe. No, looks like Revito found the power first. And down the front stretch, they go back to single file. All that did, unfortunately, was pull them both away from Tyler DeZube up in 13th.
You could see Revito's car really searching for grip there in turn 1. And Corey Ott right behind him, getting right up on the curbs, trying to get around him.
Boy, really applying the pressure up through Big Bend. This is the closest we've seen him. This is probably going to be his best chance. A defensive move from Revito. Holds to the middle of the track. Still Corey Ott trying to outbrake him into the corner. Can't quite do it, and he goes all the way off track, running completely through the grass. So up front, we haven't missed much, except for Espinosa actually losing a little bit of time on Modoff. He's about 9/10 behind Carl at this point. Let's take a look at some of the replays from the first lap. Since we had a lot of action, we haven't had a chance to go back to it yet. Corey Ott was the first one I think we had. This was in the hairpin. Pulling it up now. This was with Montini that he had the incident. I actually haven't seen what caused this yet. Oh, and it looks like we weren't able to see that on screen, unfortunately. Currently running in... oh, did he have something happen? I'm not seeing it. Oh. We'll come back live in a bit, but we found Ott here in the replay.
I think Ott was looking to try to make a pass on Flores in front of him into the hairpin. Just sent it too deep, and Montini was the innocent bystander there. He was already turning into the corner himself.
Ooh, yeah. I think you're exactly right from what we saw there. One of those embarrassing moments on the first lap. You just get over ambitious. Now, you could see just how costly that was for the number 5 car of Montini. Now, I'm trying to figure out what exactly happened to Corey Ott. And you know what? He seems to have just pulled over, and I think he had connection issues because he simply disappeared on my screen. Up in 9th, Sebastian Maciera, currently holding off a different Corey Clark, the number 24. But they've got a train of machinery, including a spin behind them. Tyler Dzube off into the pavement on one of the old runways. What happened here in Jean de Bien?
No, I think Dzube, this is a fairly common place. I see people lock it up here at Sebring, trying to get it slowed down for Le Mans. Braking while you're turning in these cars often unsettles it, and that Ferrari did not like that at all.
As we come back live, we'll want to go to Maciera and Corey Clark because they're side by side right now into turn 1. And to the inside, Maciera manages to fend him off. Corey Clark now has Justin Rame behind him. Rame poking his nose out down into turn 3. All 5 cars have to stay in a line, though. At the back of that is Dan Revito doing what he can to take advantage of the action he sees up front.
One thing Corey Clark has not done a lot of in this race is lose positions. He came all the way from 15th up to 10th here on lap 6. He's gaining about 1 position a lap so far.
And currently, he'll want to try and get that position back from Sebastian. If he could just hold off Justin Rame, we ride on board with Justin. You could see how close he is. Another little peek, trying to psych out the likes of Corey Clark, but that's not working quite yet as they weave their way through Collier.
Rame's going to want to be careful. If he makes a move on Clark and it doesn't work, he's going to have Leif Peterson and Dan Revito there to eat up that position as well. We saw that happen just a moment ago with Corey Clark, and Maciera.
And we saw last season, Peterson continues to find speed. This is actually an unusually low position for Leif. The Texan typically was running in a top 5 position for most of last season. Loses a little time coming onto the Ullman Straight on Justin Rame. Meanwhile, at the front of this pack of 5, Corey Clark has the best run we've seen yet. Another defensive move from Maciera. He covers off the inside, down into Sunset Bend. Clark tries to duck it into the apex, maybe going for an over-under. And I think he might have it. That's a very good run off the turn.
Clark from the outside, didn't expect him to get that good of a run, but he did. He's going to dive it underneath him, and right behind him, Justin Rame keeping these guys in touch, very close. All 3 of those cars through the first turn.
Rame sees an opportunity, but he's going to have to do it the long way around. He breaks a little early. Both cars having to go defensive, still too wide through turn 3. Maciera manages to pull ahead. Clark finally fends off the likes of Rame. A poke to the inside of turn 5 from Dan Revito, but it doesn't come off. Now they head towards the hairpin, and once again, Rame finds himself with a chance.
Rame almost lost that spot to Revito, but then he got right up to the back of Clark once again as they go through the hairpin. Everyone clean in single file as they exit that turn.
And all this has done is brought Daniel Rooney up to make it now a 6-car train. Things are getting a little bit hot under the collar in this group. I just have a sense that something is about to erupt here.
That was a fantastic run that Corey Clark just got. He is right up all over the back of Maciera. He goes to the inside, they make contact. They keep it going so far. They stay on track.
Sharp elbows on Corey Clark. He manages to shove the likes of Maciera out of the way. Reigns still not able to take advantage of both of them fighting, but he dips his wheels into the grass. Can he make the corner through Jean Dembien? Somehow he gets it slowed up in time. I'm not sure how, and he still holds off the likes of Ravito, but the battle is not over. Ravito gets an excellent run down the Ulman Straight.
All 6 of them get through Le Mans. You saw Maciera. He was flashing his lights furiously ahead of him at Corey Clark. He dives to the inside here in Sunset Bend. They've been contact.
Clark almost rolls over with that shove. He loses multiple positions, somehow keeps it out of the wall, but look at this, slipping down and down until I think it's going to stop at 13th place just ahead of Rudy. How damaged is that car, though? He was 2 wheels in the air.
You've got to think that something in the suspension or undercarriage of that Porsche is damaged.
And remember, it was the roles were reversed when Corey made the move before. This feels a little bit like what comes around goes around to me.
Yeah, I think definitely.
I can't believe he did not slide into the wall with that, and that he's still running with as good a pace as he is. He's not dropped off the back, so I guess we've overstated the damage to that Porsche. He's got it handled.
And it didn't break up this group either. All 6 of these cars are strung together.
Yeah, he was having trouble through Collier, though. Maybe it's only certain corners. He goes defensive into Tower to try to hold Rooney off, and he loses a ton of time in the process to Peterson ahead. And in all this action that we've been covering, we've already hit the pit window here, Nick. We've got 30 minutes to go in this 45-minute race. We're a third of the way through, so who's going to be an early taker?
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some people from this group come in and want to get out of this mess.
Yeah, that would be my call for sure. Rame, though, we haven't pointed out, he got both of them. As we take a look at this side-by-side action for 17th, this is Josh Daniels and Tyler Dzube.
Dzube coming back from an earlier accident. He picks up another spot there on the outside.
I didn't see it, but up ahead of him, Kenny Rodriguez went way wide off into the grass. He's going to be safe because, unfortunately, Dzube did not have a good enough run to try and gain on him down the front stretch. Dzube also holds off Daniels into turn 1. Now Tyler in the number 21 car quickly onto the back of Rodriguez, but almost outbrakes himself into turn 3. Oh, that car is in the middle of the track in an awkward spot. Everybody manages to avoid him. Dzube with an ill-handling car today, twice now losing spots due to a self-made spin.
That was Josh Daniels, the black BMW that had to go a long way around into the grass to avoid that.
So Rame managed to get past Sebastian and Ravito, but he's not been able to pull a major gap. There is about half a second between himself and the number 22 car. Oh, as Sebastian pushing the limits of the track, loses time himself with Ravito now climbing all over the back of that BMW.
Well, he's struggling right now to get that going. Ravito all over the back, like you said, and then Ravito has a mirror full of Leif Peterson as well.
This is a boon to Justin Rame, who continues to pull away from this fight. They start to settle down on the Ulman Straight. All single file once again. Your order: 10th Maciera, 11th Ravito, 12th Peterson. On to the front stretch. Ravito continuing to apply pressure.
That was a good run for Ravito as he's going to take it down into turn 1. He can't quite poke his nose in there yet.
Oh, and Daniels, let's see.
Remember, he was fighting with Dzube, but after that, it was Munoz who was trying to get by him. And unfortunately, this is the second car we're going to see have contact in Sunset Bend. Watch that one more time. Daniels getting a little bit of a rude introduction here to the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. That moves Daniels down to 26th spot. Let's jump in on our leaders because we haven't looked at them in a while. And Modoff has pulled about 4 seconds over the number 87 of Espinoza.
He has, and we were wondering if Espinoza had anything for him. I think he does compared to the rest of the field, of course. But, I mean, so much speed out of that number 48 Porsche. I mean, it's going to take some pit strategy or something here from Espinoza or anyone else to catch him.
Yeah, the top 5 have spread out tremendously. It's not just Espinoza. Flores is a whole 4 seconds back from P2. Eisler, about 2.5 seconds from 3rd place. It's once you get to Jean-Marc Tremblay in 5th that he's got Fernando Borda less than a second behind him. Sun continues to set here in Florida. 25 minutes left to go on the clock. Eisler not having a bad race, we must say. Fourth, but 10th place. Ooh, this is getting close once again. And Ravito down to the inside of turn 1. Sebastian Macieta continues to fend him off.
This is a battle that's been going on for quite some time now, almost over half of the race for these guys.
They've certainly stole the show, I must admit. Another look to the inside of turn 5 produces nothing for Ravito. The Midwest driver certainly is throwing the kitchen sink at the Hispano-American. Let's take a look into the hairpin.
All this while Leif Peterson behind him. He's slowly crept up from 16th to 12th. A couple of those drivers that fell off earlier due to incident. That's how he moved up those positions, and now he's waiting for something more to happen to gain a couple more freebies.
Right on board with Leif Peterson. Following in the tire tracks of Dan Ravito. Give us a good angle if the battle does erupt. Love this nose cam right next to the pavement. Also gives you an idea of the bumps and how much the car is going to jostle around.
And Ravito.
Oh, go ahead.
Ravito's really taken a different line to a lot of these turns, almost like he's. It's definitely an aggressive line, but even with that, Maciera really gained a little bit of a gap on him with that last couple of turns.
Certainly did, and Peterson runs them down. Who is that lapped car that they're going by?
Trungale. Joey Trungale.
Oh no! And he gets into his teammate, Peterson. Unfortunately, almost tipped around. He gets it going, but he loses more places. And as that was happening, that's Ravito into the pits. Oh, and what happened to Duchesne? This was in Sunset Bend. It's Federico Montini who was chasing him at the time.
I think Duchesne was going to the pits.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think that's exactly what happened. We'll see here on the replay because he approaches him so fast. It looks so odd.
Yeah, I think that might just be some miscommunication between them. Remember Montini, he's coming back from that lap 1 incident that he had with Ott. And Montini has not made the best of inroads. There you see the contact looking back from the rear of Duchesne. In fact, a number of drivers who tend to be very fast haven't shown too well on their climb back forward. One who's gained a lot since his first lap incident was the number 18 in 23rd, Ben Perez.
He's made his way forward, but he's still... whoa! And as soon as I say that, behind him, a big incident. That's Cristobal Valenzuela. No, that was in front of him. That actually was Perez getting into Valenzuela. Into Tower, just climbing on top of Valenzuela. You can see a little bit of a mistake from Valenzuela coming into Cunningham.
Yeah, that's a real tight section of the track through there. Really no room for error. And the curbs are so high in that part of the track too.
We come back live for Ben Perez, who had climbed back up to 23rd, is now in 26th. Now, Espinosa's ahead of Modoff. Did Carl make a mistake? Carl must have had some sort of error. I'm going back to see if I can find it, if it's recent enough. We've got the replay.
Boy.
Oh, and Carl, he narrowly avoided hitting the wall. It's coming out of Tower, almost spins the car. Let's see, we almost found the replay here. I think we've got it now. There it is.
Wow.
Very lucky, kept it out of the Armco. This is getting to be a little bit of deja vu, though. A similar incident that allowed Flores to take the lead. They both lapped Danny Duchesne, and Carl Modoff, who got it going, is within half a second of Espinosa. So can the number 87 withstand the pressure?
Modoff made that pass on Flores with 7 minutes, less than 7 minutes left last season here at Sebring. Espinosa, I don't know if he watched last season at all, but I hope he doesn't have that in his mind, because that would be a horrible distraction to have when you have Modoff in your mirror.
We've got a few cars taking to the pits from the top of the field. Sean Macbeth, one of them, and Danny Rooney is also in. We were riding on board with Modoff before we switched over here, and he closed under braking, something fierce. This is the Australian driver out of his stall. Back up battle for the lead. So Andre may be less mistake-prone so far, but doesn't seem to have the legs over Carl Modoff. This is going to be a hard ask to keep him back there.
Remember, both of these drivers with 18.5 minutes left. Many of the top drivers, along with these two, still have to make that pit stop. So I'm wondering if Modoff is waiting to get in front of Espinosa to do that, or if he's going to pull it in here soon and try to cut his losses a little bit.
Just to give you an idea, Modoff running right now with a 4,700, almost 4,800 iRating. Espinosa, 3,600. Not the biggest gap that we've seen as he gets a run down the Ullman straight, and he looks to the inside. No defensive move from Espinosa, interestingly.
Espinosa still holding strong on the outside, but that momentum's going to shift all the way to Modoff. He's not going to be able to clear him, though. They're going to be nose to nose, side by side, down the front stretch into turn one. The advantage right now is back to Espinosa on the inside.
Oh, game of chicken breaking into there, and unfortunately that game of chicken looks like it goes to Carl Modoff, who retakes the lead the long way around to turn one.
Modoff just pinched him down there perfectly, enough to give him enough room to not wreck himself or wreck Modoff, but enough room to give all the momentum back to himself.
Clark and Duhamel also coming in for their stops. Right now our highest hitter is Sean Macbeth, and I believe that's going to stay the same because he's just coming by all those cars we saw come in.
Stephen Bench, another one in the 84 Porsche behind them, comes in.
Looks like a lot of drivers electing to wait until late. We've only got 16 minutes left, so I'm pretty sure the pit window is closing at this point. There's Macbeth running 14th, still the highest pitter. Next car about 5.5 seconds up, that's Federico Montini, but Federico, of course, hasn't pit himself. The big concern for Sean is going to be cars who haven't pitted, who are slower than him. Right now, no such worry exists. Wow, Espinoza, he's giving Modoff something to think about.
He definitely is. He's, as we go on board with him now to see what he's seeing down the Ullman straight into Sunset Bend. Modoff locked it up just a couple turns ago. I think maybe not as prone to incident as we thought he was.
Stays right with him out of Sunset, across the line for another lap. Both these drivers have yet to pit. Almost wonder if I was Andre, if I'd be considering trying to come into the pits for a stop and do like you said, to just try to out-strategize him, maybe something other than pure race pace.
It definitely wouldn't hurt, as we see Espinoza make a little mistake there through the infield. He got up on that curbing there. Really tall, high curbing through there. It'll really mess up your car's momentum.
I always hated the curbs through that section. Certainly jostle the car around quite a bit. Not as close down to the hairpin this time for Espinoza. Federico Montini, who's had some excitement today, probably more than he would like, takes that number 5 down pit lane and into his stall. Looks like LeBlanc going to take his stop. Ben Perez as well. Perez, the Hoosier, has switched over to the BMW this season, but it certainly doesn't seem to be doing him any favors, at least in the first race. Now, despite how many contacts we've seen out on track, we only have, it looks like 6 retirements. Still have 34 cars running.
And a couple of those, I think, were due to connection errors as well. So, pretty clean race on track today.
Our leaders continuing around, but no more. Now they come into the pits.
Espinoza. Both of them come in at the same time. Espinoza tried to close the gap as he came in on, and Flores also locks him up coming into the pits behind him. Same with Eisler and Tremblay and Borda, everyone coming in.
I think we found the end of that pit window. Just about 13 minutes left to go. Justin Rame in, Sebastian Maciera. Yeah, unless someone was ridiculously good at saving fuel, this looks to me an indicator that everybody must pit this lap. Espinoza was not able to jump Modoff. He comes out roughly a half second behind.
You could see Espinoza really trying to hustle off a pit road, but Modoff just so perfect in the pits as well. Right now, though, he's being held up a little bit by Mike Richer in the 15. He's running 32nd right now. So that might play into the hands of Espinoza quite well.
Richter is a lapped car, so he's just unfortunately at the wrong place at the wrong time. He's staying off to the right. Is he going to brake early? Nicely done by Richter to let both the leaders through without interruption.
Espinoza able to keep him at least in sight. I don't know if he's in striking range or not, though.
Now, we almost had every car pit. The only one I'm seeing who has not been in is Cristobal Valenzuela, which is even more curious because I'm pretty sure that Valenzuela has had some contacts and spins, and that tends to eat into your fuel savings somewhat, but number 33 is still out running.
Yeah, that 33 has got some right rear damage, especially on that car, so he's definitely been involved in a couple of accidents here as we take a look at battle for 5th place coming off pit road. That was Tremblay now holding off Borda.
Haven't gotten to give Tremblay a whole lot of love yet this broadcast. Down into Jean Debienne. Don't forget Sean Macbeth as well. That is the third car in the line that you're seeing. The BMW continuing to chase those two as they weave their way down the Ullman Straight. It is currently 7:41 virtual standard time. Sun getting very low in the sky now. We haven't talked about the weather too much other than where the sun is. It's actually nice and cool because of how late in the day it is. 76-degree track temperature. That's got to be really grippy.
I think it definitely is. And a lot of this track is shaded right now, too. We have that nice sunset here at Sebring. Not too much wind here, 10 miles an hour roughly right now. So pretty nice warm day down here in Florida.
And Espinosa's not going to let this one go without a fight. 3 tenths between himself and Karl Modoff. Modoff may have won every single round last season, but he's having to work hard to continue it here today in the opening round of Season 2 in 2019.
Espinosa is there.
They've got a 6.5-second gap to Jorge Flores. So they've got no pressure from behind if they start to battle. On board the number 87 up ahead. It's hard to tell how much of this is Espinosa having good enough pace to really threaten, or how much of it is simply Modoff managing the gap.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Modoff right now, I don't know how much he's putting into this drive right now. We are down to 9.5 minutes left, but how much is Modoff giving it? It's hard to tell. We also were talking earlier in the broadcast about the new BMW and how it was going to fare. Well, this is a BMW versus Porsche. Might not be a very fair assessment, though, because we don't really know how Modoff's driving.
Meanwhile, as we jump down to this battle for, I believe, 5th place. Yes, and Jean-Marc Tremblay ahead of Borda. Macbeth took a little bit of a peek down into turn 1 on Fernando. Couldn't pull it off, though.
Yeah, Borda really lost touch with Tremblay there a little bit. Just as I say that, of course, he closes that gap, but Macbeth putting a whole lot of pressure on Fernando Borda right now for 6th.
Sean stays right behind him. They come down to the hairpin. Doesn't look like he's close enough to try and attack. Wow, look at how tight he gets to the back of him. Inches to spare between them. And as that was happening, Corey Clark had another problem. This one did collect another car. Oh, and it's Leif Peterson, actually. Oh, no.
Oh. Down into turn 1, it looks like. Well, Peterson... Oh, Clark has already gone off, actually, at that point.
Well, I think it was trying to pick a side to avoid him on.
I think so.
Yeah, that was a hard T-bone. And then he hit the wall for good measure, did Peterson. Both cars have got to be severely damaged by that incident.
2 cars that were having a really good run today, too. Really great battling early on, we saw.
As we come back live, Clark's still limping around. But the battle for 5th is not abated. Jean-Marc Tremblay only 2 tenths ahead of Fernando Borda. They break for Sunset Bend yet again. Off the corner, what can Fernando do? Can he get himself that precious momentum to make an attack? It's not looking like it. They're going to stay in order.
We're only going to have a handful of laps left in this race. Tremblay, I think, Borda, rather. I think right now he's in the best shape of these 3 to make a move on anyone, because Tremblay is sitting duck right in front of him.
coming through turn 5 is once again closing into the back of Tremblay. Got to be careful about that. If he tips him, I don't know if the stewards are going to look too kindly on that.
Yeah, he just about, whoa!
From miles behind, almost gets in the likes of Tremblay. Sean Macbeth makes a dive, but it doesn't stick as Borda comes back around to keep himself in 6th place.
Where did that one come from?
Took another peek. This one a little bit more cautious down into Cunningham. To go on board with Macbeth. Somebody needs to tell Sean that even though that it was an old bomber base, he does not have to make those dive bombs to make passes. It almost worked to his credit. Well, this new BMW looks and sounds gorgeous. Not missing anything up front. It's backed up to half a second between Modov and Espinoza. If it gets closer again, though, we will jump up there. But 5 minutes left to go. You mentioned it. Time is running out for all of these drivers to make a legitimate pass.
It is indeed, and Borda got right underneath Tremblay there. Just because Tremblay was a little bit offline, he got a good run, though, and I think Macbeth got a good run on Borda there as well as they head down into turn 1. What kind of moves are we going to see from Macbeth on this lap?
Not good enough to get a turn 1 move done, but he does get the run off the corner. Borda fends him off into turn 3. All of them sliding their way through that left-hander. Oh, and slightly off the apex for Tremblay. It halted the momentum of Borda. Is this going to cause a chain reaction? Maybe Macbeth can make it this time. Last time, he was way behind and still managed to outbreak the likes of Borda. Borda covers him off early. Oh, but is this an attack, actually? He gets into him. He turns Tremblay around. All 3 cars make contact with each other. Macbeth comes out the best with 5th. Borda continues in 6th. Let's look at the replay. Broaden actually inherits 7th due to that.
Yeah, Borda knew he had to be defensive there after what happened last lap with Macbeth making a dive bomb on him, but Borda just no room there. He was a little bit faster than Tremblay, just punted him a bit, and like you said, all 3 of them with contact.
Borda stays where he is, but the Canadian Tremblay is probably steaming after that. This is Espinoza. The gap continues to grow. The number 48, our current champion, has responded. It is now a second between himself and the 87. 2 to go at the line. Now, the top 10 is not settled. Remember Dan Revito? Well, Justin Rame is still ahead. And, well, now they're catching Jean-Marc Tremblay. I wonder if that car is damaged. This could get very exciting with a 3-car battle with only 2 laps to go.
Yeah, it might bottleneck here in a couple of terms, but right now, Dan Revito is not concerned about that. He's just concerned about getting by the 88 of Justin Rame in front of him. He's had that goal his whole race as they both go off into the dirt just a little bit there out of turn 1.
You can see how much that slowed up the BMW of Dan. Stays with him through turn 5, nice and tidy through. Oh, nope, not nice and tidy. Big bobble off of the left-hander. Meanwhile, Rame looking very good, and Tremblay has got to be damaged here. Look at how slow he is.
Yeah, he's definitely down on power and aero, I think, because Tremblay locked it up on the outside there, trying to gain grip.
I think
Rame not able to get by. Oh, he is able to get by.
It was Rame that locked up, going way wide, and now Revito's to the inside of that Bimmer. Through Cunningham, and he finally gets it done. Poor Jean-Marc Tremblay, down to 10th now when he was spying a top 5. Wow, Karl Modov has turned on the afterburners. In that last lap, he has gained half a second over Espinosa.
We were wondering if at those first couple of laps after they came out of the pits, when Espinosa really seemed to be keeping in touch with Modov, as we have white flag actually comes out just now for Modov. They just caught the cusp of that threshold. We were wondering how much Modov was giving, or if he was just managing the gap. Well, I think we have our answer now, as, like you said, really put on the afterburners here late in the race.
That has got to be soul-crushing for Andre. Seeing that he can keep up with Modov for only so long, and then suddenly our current champion just builds up the gap in the matter of a couple laps. Clock continues to tick down. The red and yellow hues of the sun bouncing off the track, bouncing off the cars. I said it would get dark, and though the dusk is getting a little bit dim, it is thankfully not blackout quite yet. Karl Modov, the driver who won every single race last season, is looking very, very close to continue the winning streak.
He is indeed, but he knows after today he's got a lot of challenges later on in the season. One of those challenges is named Andres Espinosa. He's had a great run today despite coming up short.
Yeah, certainly going to be looking over his shoulder, because I think a 2-second gap at the end of a 45-minute race is nothing to sniff at, especially when you're up against the likes of the number 48. Down the Ullman Straight, Andre going to make sure that Karl Modov doesn't sit comfortably, at least in this race. Can he continue to apply that? Can he eventually overcome him? Doesn't look like he'll overcome him in the first round, because as they come off the final quarter, the number 48 of Karl Modov is going to win again here in Sebring. Jorge Flores, a quiet podium finish for the number 929 today. Similar story with Eisler, the Iceman, getting himself a 4th place, at least racking up good points. Beth with the top 5. Board is 6. And then Danny Revito and Justin Rame going to be very close across the line, but it's going to go to Justin.
Late charge there from Revito, not quite enough. He's going to have to settle with P9 today.
Meanwhile, Leif Peterson has to hold off Kenny Rodriguez, and I think he's going to do it. It looks like 15th or 14th for Peterson.
Rodrigo Munoz under pressure from Clark, but again, Munoz is going to be able to hold him off. He gained that spot on the last lap for 18th.
Nice little battle for 20 settles in favor of Daniels. If anything, 24th is one of the closest we've seen. Is actually, did they change positions just now? DeZupe challenging Valenzuela at the line, less than a car length. And that should be... Well, we had one change of position, but it wasn't too much of a battle. Duchesne getting past Schilling on the Ullman Straight. The last of cars cruising across the line now. So, with that, we are going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with our unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around, because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Sebring, we just watched the very first round of this season's PRL GTE Sports Car Series, and Carl Modoff takes another consecutive win. Believe this is his 9th. I can't remember if he won the last one of 2 seasons ago, effectively now. Andre Espinosa did keep him honest, as we said. Look at that gap, 1.6 seconds after a 45-minute race. Espinosa actually led some of the race when Carl made a mistake, but he could not keep him behind him. Jorge Flores deserves quite a bit of credit, coming home with a 3rd place, having started 4th, and Christian Eisler as well, from 6th to 4th. Then, how about Sean Macbeth? From 14th on the grid to P5. A good climb for the 252. Fernando Borda takes 6th place, with Pete Mabroten finishing 7th. Justin Rame takes P8. And then Dan Revito, 20th to 9th. Jean-Marc Tremblay, I don't think that the Canadian's going to be very happy with today's results. He winds up with 10th after challenging for a top 5 earlier on. Nick?
Really quiet run today for Dan Rooney in the 77. He comes all the way from 18th up to 11th, followed by Sebastian Mastiera from 11th to 12th. Sean Dumel, another one. He came from 19th to 13th. Leif Peterson's going to finish 14th. Kenneth Rodriguez in the 969 will round out your top 15. Brett Thurman, he had a really quiet day. I don't think we mentioned his name once. From 26th to 16th. He is going to be followed by Federico Montini. And man, what a disappointing day. He had to kick off his season. Hopefully, he'll get some pace back, and that just wasn't able to fight back after that lap 1 incident. Rodrigo Munoz, Corey Clark, and Josh Daniels will round out the top 20.
In 21st, we had James LeBlanc with Stephen Bench finishing 22nd. Ben Perez, surprisingly bad day for him, 23rd. I think it all started with his woes on lap 1. And Manuel Paredes in 24th. Cristobal Valenzuela takes P25, having started 12th. Another driver who wants to forget today, Tyler Dzube finishing 26th. Then it's Hugo Glaz in P27. 28th goes to Mike Cray and Danny Duche with 29th. Top 30 are going to be rounded out by Gary Schilling.
Takeshi Kita with a nice day running in the back of the field, coming from 37th up to 31st. Mike Richter in the 15 car. He is going to be finishing 32nd a lap down alongside Karsten Quint in the 55. Joey Trungale, rather, he's going to be finishing 14 laps down in 34th. Maxi Sorella, 15 laps down in 35th. A couple of cars, 20 laps down. We saw Corey Ott after that lap 1 incident with Montini. He had some connection issues, we believe. He's going to finish 36th with David Slee behind him in 37th. Jerome Berthum, Kyle Strikers, and Luis Morga never got going today. They will round out your massive 40-car field here at Sebring.
We have our winner ready to talk to us. And, well, we talked about last season how Sebring wasn't necessarily happy hunting ground. And then in that race, he, of course, had a mistake that almost lost him the win. And then it was deja vu all over again, Carl. You had another mistake, and you had to come back yet again.
Yeah, I mid-spin, I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. What are you doing? So definitely made the interesting, pretty stressful, the race pretty stressful there for me in the middle. And then similar, kind of pass back to the lead. So definitely a little bit of deja vu. I think next season I'm going to plan with a goal to not do that again.
Yeah, some things to focus on. So now you're facing off against the new BMW M8. Do you feel like the BOP is actually pretty good between the cars this season, or have you already kind of spotted areas where you need to watch out? It certainly seemed like Espinosa was challenging you.
Yeah, definitely. Did a bunch of races on Sunday in the IMSA, and it was all BMWs. I was getting spanked, actually, so I thought it was going to be really tough today. But I think they made a torque adjustment to the BMW this morning, so I think that kind of helped out a little bit. But yeah, the BMW for sure seems strong. I've read that it's pretty consistent, so I think going forward it'll definitely be a consistent challenger. And Andre drove great. I mean, I didn't really make any mistakes. Every lap he was very consistent. So I think going forward it's going to be a pretty fun season.
Have you raced against Andres before? Is he familiar territory?
No, first time. First time racing against him this season.
All right. Well, we look forward to a bit of a rivalry brewing in that case. Congratulations on your 9th consecutive win, sir.
Thanks, guys. Shout out to Corey Clark, my teammate, for making our livery here. I really love it. So to give credit to him, he did all the work there. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Certainly is eye-catching. That was our winner, Carl Modoff, here today. And Nick is going to be talking to Andre Espinoza, who took it down to within 1.6 seconds after these 45 minutes.
Hello, guys.
Hello, Andres. What a run you had there. 1.6 seconds, like Joe said. Did you know really what you were up against in the terms of Carl Modoff there at the end? Were you trying to go for the win? Obviously, you were trying to go for the win. Did you know what you were up against in terms of competition, though?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've heard a lot from Carl. I know he's quick. I'll be honest, I was surprised I did so well at the quali. I think I had a little bit more, maybe P2, but definitely the Porsche had way more pace than my M8.
So that's an interesting point. We were just asking Carl about the maybe the BOP differences that these two cars have. The BMW, of course, being added recently to iRacing. This is the first GTE sports car series in the PRL with it. Do you see any advantages or disadvantages to having the BMW going towards Watkins Glen next week?
I mean, I'll be honest, I have only done a couple laps at Watkins. I guess it'll come down to setup. A good setup will be fine there. But I know the Porsche has a little bit more downforce, so that'll make it a little bit easier for the Porsche guys.
We noticed everyone tonight in terms of pit strategy. I think it was the top 6 or 7 that all came in together. Did you think that was a mistake on your part or anyone else's part in terms of being able to jump Modoff, or was Modoff quick enough where even if you had short pitted him, you were going to lose out to him?
No, absolutely. He outpaced me the entire race. Once I fell off the draft, I couldn't keep up with him. He was definitely quicker out the corners. So I was just trying to keep as close to him as possible. I know he had a hiccup right there about the half of the race, so I caught back to him. And when I saw him coming in, it was time for me to come in behind him. I wasn't going to do any quicker laps, so I had to keep in touch with him as much as possible.
So it's a longer season than we're used to here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. It's a bigger field, too, we're noticing. It seems like competition ramps up every year in the PRL. Do you think you might be able to, in your rookie season, put together a championship run to get up there and fight guys like Modoff?
I hope. It's still soon to say anything, but we'll definitely, as our esports team, will definitely put on the time to try to give Modoff the hardest time and just don't make it easy for him.
All right. Well, you didn't make it easy for him tonight, so go celebrate your second tier of the podium finish tonight in the 87 with your whole team. Fantastic drive. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you later down the road in the season.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for the time, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon.
That was second place Andre Espinoza in the number 87 BMW. And it's going to close us out for today in the first round. We've got some tasty stuff on hand, I think, for the remainder, the way that we saw pace from Andre. But we want to thank a few people before we go. Again, a big thank you goes out to the Simulation Motorsports Association. If you want to check them out, you can find them at SIMMSA.net. Also, a thank you to Frazier and Deeter. If you want to look into their services, you can find it at FrazierDeeter.com. Also, a thank you goes out to iRacing for bringing us back on the iRacing eSports Network. Make sure and subscribe to their YouTube channel by heading over there and clicking the big red button. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As was mentioned, the next race takes us to Watkins Glen. That'll be Tuesday, March 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.